Arr, fellow pirates and other happy hunters who have stumbled upon an indie pirate survival game called Out of Reach. This is Kallestofeles, and this time I wish to bring you my thoughts upon the aforementioned indie multiplayer pirate survival title, which at the time of the recording is in early access state. Will it be as buggy and glitchy as Ark? Well, let's find out. On Linux, as always. You're a castaway stranded in the middle of nowhere. The storm is gone, the worst certainly not. Look for food and resources, craft gear, make a shelter. These are the basics. You will need much more to stay alive on this cut-off world, yet not desert island. So that is how the developers of the game, Spaceboat Studios, have described it. And yes, exactly as you might think, there really isn't much of a story to this game, at least at this point. Just like many other open-world survival builder games before it, Out of Reach focuses more on the gameplay side of things, so let's move on. Regarding the game's current mechanics, what you might expect to find in a survival game, you are likely to also find in Out of Reach. Start by selecting an appropriate server to play in to continue to creating your character. It is worth mentioning that at this time around you get a selection of 3 different server types to connect to. Firstly, there are the casual PvE servers, which focus on base building and where PvP combat has been disabled. Then you have your standard servers, which have PvP enabled and generally offer the standard experience of the game as it was meant to be played. And finally, you have the PvP focused servers, which have pretty ridiculous multipliers for gathering materials as the focus is heavily placed on the PvP factor. Less fuss about getting your good gear and more on using the gear to go to battle with the other clans. Just as a side note here, there is no single player mode implemented yet. Is it coming? Hard to say at this point, but the PvE servers are the closest thing to a single player you are going to get. After you have created your character, you are thrown into the world with nothing but a rock in your hand to start gathering all those precious resources left in the wild. Generally, what you want to do is to start searching for a good location with a generous supply of natural resources to start building your base there. Now, I will not be covering everything related to the game or the building, but there are some things I wish to bring out here. There is the builder's desk mechanic. Okay, so how it essentially works is that you build a base, let's say a small hut, that is 6 by 6 squares in size. You make it all cozy, but notice that someone has just popped in through your front door, you die, and are frustrated with it, calling out all messy names in the public chat. What you need to do with this 6 by 6 hut is to build what the game calls the builder's desk within that house. When you do, you can create your own clan, add people to your house's guest list, and even get a good defensive bonus, which is upgradable. The bonus itself gives you 3 hours of protection in the standard servers if your base is destroyed, meaning that your builder's desk got destroyed. Upgrading the desk will give you 7, 12, 24 hours, etc. bonus time when things get hairy. To explain what the protection time actually provides, we need to understand how the builder's desk mechanic works. It works so that when you place a desk in a building, it will allow you to claim the structure and all its directly connected structures as yours or your clan's. Without the desk, the structures have no owners. Hence, everyone can do as they wish. And this is why it is crucial to build and defend this desk as best as possible. The protection time is the time that no one can essentially touch your stuff after the disk has been destroyed. It will give you time to log back in and return to your house without it being completely gone and all your stuff taken. This is all good, but there is a slight problem. Let's say you built your house and you want to build a wall around it for protection. If you somehow manage to build a wall all in one go, you will need one additional builder's desk connected to a wall because, let's be honest, it is unlikely that you will find a lot of land where you can make everything as a one structure. In addition, in most cases, you will want to make a wall look pretty level-wise, so you build it in 6 or 7 segments on a not so leveled ground. And if you want to have doors in these walls, you guessed it, you need to have a separate desk for every door if they are on separate segments. It gets way worse if you for whatever reason decide to build a village for your clan in contrast to one big building. It is just tedious. I wish that the builder's desk would have clearly defined radius that it works with instead of the all structures must be connected to the desk mechanic. Some might find it good enough, for me it's annoying. Subjective? Hey, always. Besides building the best houses in town, the game is heavily focusing on its PvP aspects as well. The whole map consists of 12 territory points, which can be captured by any clan, claiming different bonuses from them, such as increasing farming capabilities as an example. This is all good, and I really approve this mechanic, but what is a bit half-baked in the system at the moment is the reputation system. What it means is that when you decide to attack a player or destroy someone else's property, you will be marked as renegade in the player's list, letting everyone know that you have been a naughty little pirate. On the other hand, if you kill a player who currently has the renegade status, you shall be marked as Punisher. In theory, how I think it is meant to work is that once someone goes renegade, a full clan for an example, there would be a literal witch hunt for those players. This would be awesome. But at the moment at least, there is no reward for becoming the Punisher, so no one basically is ever doing it. Generally, what you see in the servers is that a few guys are just roaming the map, pillaging every building they come across, killing everyone. This is not fun when you would just like to build up your base and get your gear first, before you see an arrow heading for your knee. For me personally, I would love to see a game where you have the similar settings, but as a clan, you could mark yourself ready for PvP. And once marked, you cannot change the status for, let's say, a week, if ever. Some might call it baby wheeling, but hey, I'm just a bit salty here, setting up my base and taking a sword to the neck whilst at it, with basically no means of defending myself. But again, that's subjective and heavily based on the nature of the game. Speaking of PvP and buildings, you can also throw together some pretty awesome contraptions in this game, such as boats with ballistas, trebuchets, regular ballistas, and a glider. Yeah, this game even has a glider in it, which you can drop rocks from on unsuspecting victims and their property. Whilst this being super awesome, the downside is that this is pretty much it. Other than those four, you really don't have any catapults or any other contraptions to play around with. Weapon and armor selection is not very large, as well almost exclusively consisting of variations of the same sets, only built using leather, bronze or steel. The positive side of things is that the game is in early access and the developers are very, and I mean very, active on the title. Just a few days ago, they added actual pirate cons to the game, with lots of animation and bug fixes. So I'll be expecting more content in all of the departments to be added as the development of the title goes on. And last but not least, there are also pirate ships which roam the seas and regularly come to a halt, which gives you an option to board them and trade your hard-earned wealth for some goodies. Currency that they accept is gold coins, which can be acquired from various treasure chests scattered around the map and from sunken pirate ships, or you can just loot it from other players. You are able to trade those coins for special pirate clothing, weapons, or resources. I really like this mechanic as it gives another reason for roaming the island other than resource hunting or searching for enemies that are a lot weaker than you and completely unable to defend themselves. Salty? Absolutely. Now that we've covered the gameplay mechanical side of things, let's focus on the presentational side for a moment. Graphically, it's a Unity engine title, and we all kinda know what to expect from it. But I must say that coming from Ark Survival Evolved, I am very pleased with the visuals. The game has beautiful sun rays glooming through the trees at dusk, greatly working anti-alias, and generally looks great as a whole package. Some might say that it's a bit empty, but it's still in early access and I hope more and more content shall be pushed into the title very soon. Whilst being pretty pleasing to the eye, it runs almost constantly at 60 frames per second on my GTX 1070, whilst being absolutely maxed out on the settings department. There are some drops, but generally it's all good. Whilst the visuals are good, the mixing on the audio side on the other hand is a mixed bag. You will have to play around with the settings quite a few times in different locations in order to get the water humming and the birds singing at the correct pitch, which would be pleasing to your ears as well. Also, some of the locations don't actually have any ambient sound, so don't start troubleshooting your settings when you stand still and hear absolutely nothing. Speaking of which, the main menu lacks any kind of sound or music. even when you click on something, there is just no feedback. This made me freak out initially when I installed the game, but it's a minor issue. The presentation of the in-game menus is also a mixed bag, which makes me think that the developers are in desperate need for a user interface designer. Although the main inventory window is movable, the general usability and item feedback is lacking a lot. For an example, there's a separate tab for your backpack. Why? Can't it just extend the existing slots? Then there is a hotbar with 4 buttons to which you only seem to be able to map food items. Why can't I map weapons there? I know there's a feature to switch between gathering and fighting equipment with one press of a button, but what if I need to harvest rock and then wood, or fight with spear and shield, then need to switch to bow? It forces me to go to inventory, drag the items to their slots and then pray that I didn't die whilst doing so. Also, you cannot simply take one piece of anything from the chest. You will have to split the pile to get the amount and then drag it over. Why not a control click or similar, just to take one piece and put it in the inventory automatically? Then the building menu is tabbed, but tabs only go one way. Why not shift plus tab to go back to the previous tab? Or better yet, put all the buildables in one menu or categorize them. There are many more of such gripes, but I'm sure that they will be ironed out as the game development progresses. So don't take my criticism too negatively here, it's just somewhat constructive rant after all. Right, so I've blabbered enough about the game, let's start wrapping things up. What do I think of it? Well, the title itself is very promising with its focus on the pirate-themed PvP and good solid base which it has been built upon. It is early access and it shows out a lot. Luckily, the developers are very active in both adding new content to the game and listening to the community. I had an issue which I reported and it got a reply within hours. This shows dedication to the player base and is highly appreciated in my book. Also worth mentioning is that the game is pretty bug-free. So what's been implemented you can expect to work. And you cannot say that about every early access title. The game, however, does suffer from typical early access issues like the amount of content, awkward audio mixing and clunky interface. But those are very likely to be ironed out soon, given that the developers listen to the community and actually play the title that they're creating. Currently I have around 8 hours and out of reach according to the Steam. I still have some things to do in the game before I have exhausted the title. Mainly I haven't done a lot of roaming around yet, besides going for treasure hunts and gathering quests. So if you're looking into experiencing everything that it has to offer, then I would say that you would get around 20 hours of playtime out of it at this stage. This subjective playtime estimation considers that you will make a clan of 2 to 3 people and also roam around to capture flags, etc. For that, the developers are asking for €14.99 or your regional equivalent, which is very reasonable considering the frequency that they add new content to the title. The game is also available with discounts from time to time. At the time of the recording, for an example, they're selling the access for just €7.49, which is 50% off, and it's a no-brainer to get it if you really are into PvP survival games. I will definitely be keeping a close eye on this title, and I'm eagerly waiting for whatever the developers are going to include next. But until then, I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, leave it a thumbs up, and hey, why not spread the word and share it? I'd appreciate that. If you didn't like it, then hey, the thumbs down button is also located just down below the video. This has been Kallestofeles, wishing you a good looting season, and may your walls hold off those trebuchet shots. Bye bye.